On October 3rd, 1993, following the downing of a first Blackhawk helicopter known as Super 61, a secondary helicopter known as Super 64 was also downed by RPG fire, carrying the pilot Michael Durant, who survived the crash and started receiving hordes of oncoming Somali militia. In response to this, two individuals known as Randy Shughart and Gary Gordon responded to the issue by volunteering themselves to go in there and provide a perimeter of security. This is the Ballad of Gary and Randy.
Just want to highlight something very interesting right now, and I'm sure you guys can see it. I'm not going to be using the regular map for my planning anymore. At least not on the fan-made types of maps. I'm able to see this PNG file that I was sent, that I downloaded, and I want to be able to plan with that because I think it gives us another. Doesn't give us an edge. Actually, it takes away from us. We're not able to plan that easily and that well anymore, and that creates a challenge within of itself. So I find that in a way rewarding if it pays off, and quite devastating if it doesn't. Right? But it does give me a little bit of freedom to be creative with my strategy because this is a rescue mission and we know the outcome of it. I don't know exactly how to play this out. If this was a regular CQB mission, then I would probably have a little bit more understanding of the situation or the layout of the buildings or the structure that we're trying to breach. But because this is a kind of a complicated endeavor, I don't know where to begin. So I'm gonna try it out anyway, and we'll see where this goes. Now we know a few things right now. We know that Shughart and Gordon volunteered for this mission, and it's essentially a one-way ticket. We know that Durant should be somewhere right here. That's a D, by the way. Somewhere in this area close to the bird. We know that the bird is on the deck, and it's pretty much inoperable anymore. Um, and it looks like it kind of crashed into a building. That might be some rubble. I'm not too sure yet, but there's a wall missing. Maybe that's the wall. I'm not too sure yet as well. Some little hut, right? My gut tells me that we're either going to insert from here or from here, one of those two. And let's erase this real quick. Let's bring another one and erase this one. And what it also doesn't tell me is that where these units begin. So they may as well probably already take place. Oops. Here. They may be there already with him. We don't know yet. Okay, so I'm gonna go with the worst case and assume that we still have to make our way to him. So let's say that we start from here. So we're gonna start. We want to be tactical about it. So we're gonna make our approach from here and kind of get a lay of the land, what's going on. We don't know anything about the terrain either, if there's any other obstacles. Um, and kind of to that, all right, once we determine that it's quotes, big air quotes here, safe, we're then gonna make our way towards the crash site, get a lot closer to it, and just make our way. We want to maintain 360 degrees of swiveling back and forth. So I'm gonna have these guys just continuously just twirling around, not a not in a unrealistic fashion, but enough for them to just scan all sectors as they get into Durant. From here, we're going to get Durant and move him into here. If my memory serves me any well right now, this could either be the exfil site for Durant or the place where we need to keep him while we start engaging targets. Now, if that could be one plan, the other plan might be that it would be the end result, thus ending the mission in success, right? So the other plan that I have in mind is that we may have to go, sorry, getting new and familiar with this. We may have to, again, making the assumption that we start from here, we may have to start clearing systematically all these doors and breaching in here, breaching in here, breaching in here. Clear this area and make our way over to these buildings. Get eyes on, get eyes on. If the doors aren't open, I'm probably not going to touch them, but if they are open, we have to get eyes on and make sure that they're safe, those spaces. That's if we come from this side. Let's clear this out, get another plan. Tertiary plan. We insert from here. Same plan as I mentioned. Get coverage. Make our way into this building. And I'm sure we're going to have resistance along the way on both sides, whether it's here or here. And continuing just pieing off these corners, gaining some perspective on these little areas here, and slowly creeping our way to Durant. Okay. Once we're here, we then secure Durant. We bring him in. In any case, whether it's coming from here or from up here, Durant has to make his way in here. We know that he has a broken spine, or there's an injury to his vertebrae, so he can't walk on his own, which means that we may have to make contact with him. And given the mechanics of the game, it doesn't allow for all that flair and detail. So we may have to make contact with him in order to activate the VIP to get him into a more secure position. He may have a weapon. As we understand, he had an MP5 in the film, so he may have a weapon of his own to be able to defend himself, but he's in a very vulnerable position, and the whole idea here is to get him to safety at all cost. And I'm really emphasizing at all cost. Another thing to note, I don't know what determines mission success or failure. Spoiler alert, we do know that Shughart and Gordon didn't make it all the way through, and eventually Durant was taken as a POW. So we don't know what the conditions for success or failure are in this map within the parameters of Doorkickers. We just know that that's kind of the situation at hand, and that's the best way to play it. It's two guys. It's a dicey, very, very, very deucey type of situation. It is, in fact, it is the worst case scenario. And I mean, these guys gave it their all, right? Literally. So let's see what we have. By the way, I want to make this very perfectly clear, is that this is something that I'm barely knowing. I don't know anything about the map and how they work, what weapons they were using. I didn't read the description as I downloaded it. I wanted to go in there with a huge blind eye so that I can respond and you can see my reactions in the video as I play the replay, thus bringing a little bit more authenticity. This is why we're going on almost 8 minutes on explaining 3 different types of scenarios of what could happen. So this is going to be a lengthy one, as you can tell, but I think it's very rewarding in the end, and you guys are going to have more perspective on this than I am going in. So I'm just putting myself out there for you guys to revel and partake in the game.
Just want to point out right quick that at the time of the crash, the flight crew as well as Michael Durant were the ones that survived it, and the co-pilot known as Ray was the one that was killed on impact. But even at the time that Shughart and Gordon were inserted, the flight crew was still defending the crash site, so they were able to assist as best as they could before succumbing to enemy gunfire. Because this is my first attempt, I didn't know how long the game was going to last and how the mechanics were going to play out in this scenario. So this is a bit of a long one. In fact, this is my longest mission yet. So just be advised, this is going to take about close to 20 minutes. And in light of this lengthy video, I'm going to try to provide as much commentary as possible, beginning with right now. So I'm doing this leapfrog strategy where we provide cover for each other as we're moving, and it's kind of this whole shoot, move, communicate type of deal. I also want to keep an eye on the crowd because that may be a spawn point, and
yeah, sometimes we have to just kind of disregard them for a little bit while we make a move and we keep our eyes on something else because they're coming from all sorts of directions. Admittedly, this game kind of tested my strategic and
Alpha,
tactical
go.
uh, reasoning because I have to provide 360 degrees worth of cover, and I was unable to provide
Alpha,
that all the
go.
time. So I had to sacrifice certain angles for the immediate uh, priority, which is Durant. So once we make contact with Durant, then we can kind of get our bearings and figure out what exactly it is that we have to do, setting priorities and then thinking about what our next move is going to be. And I decided to hunker down here, trying to stay true to the script and near and dear to the crash site while essentially providing cover for Durant. In this case, I decided to use the helicopter as cover. The nose and the fuselage provided a good amount of concealment on me and the rest of the people here. Just focusing our efforts on that one uh, entryway to the north of the structure where Durant is at.
I decided to fast forward this scene here because it just kept being the same thing over and over again. Before I realized that, oh shit, I have to maneuver around this place and try to find some safe haven and look around, perhaps even clear some of these rooms that weren't breached yet. So after much careful planning and thought, I decided to start moving my units down south to the closest building to them, away from the fight, and start clearing that side and securing it. Of course, there was some resistance there. Um, it came and went. Of course, it was just, like I said, there's just oncoming waves of enemy from any direction that you can point. You were not in a safe spot here. No matter where you were, there was people coming at you. So that kept me on my toes. I had to divide my forces. So one would be point man and have to single-handedly secure a building before we can commit to it and get into like an alley as you see here before realizing that, oh crap, we're taking fire from another direction. And so then we had to maneuver against that, and it was just we just kept going. We just kept going around, trying to get away, stay out of the rain and get in the shade or whatever, however you want to call it. What took me by surprise is that Duran was ambulatory, so I was assuming that he wasn't going to be able to move so much,
Alpha, go.
as I was taking some of my preconceived notions into this scenario. But he was mobile. I think he was armored lightly. I don't remember too well, but he definitely had an MP5. At least I outfitted him with an MP5, because he was part of the roster that was gonna deploy, and I wanted to stay true to the movie at least. However, like I said, him being able to move around really took me by surprise. So now he's just another player in the game that I can use. So that's when I'm 10 minutes into the game, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe we should start moving around. And at this point, we took a casualty. Mike is still in the fight. I believe it's Gordon who ended up punching out early. So my next move from here was to maneuver clear across the field, just north of the site where that building with the two doors are, and try to find refuge there. So we're just slowly pieing around, making sure that there's, amongst the crowd there isn't any hostiles. That didn't work out too well. As you can see, they kept spawning. So we had to stay on a swivel the whole time and make sure that we weren't taking hits from behind and try to create some form of 360-degree coverage. Oh, there they go. So now we're trying to occupy the same building that the hostiles are occupying while taking rounds from the top. So at this point, we're now left with one guy, and he's going to set off an ambush. But it doesn't prove to be very fruitful. As you can see, he's just down to one gun because, or to the gun. So we pop smoke, try to contain the situation a little bit, divide some of the forces coming in. The smoke did not last. So now he's reloading. And this is actually, by this point, Mike is killed. Or the character portraying Mike. And then this is where it all goes to shit. So all in all, it was fun. Very long scenario. Look at the kill rate. It's 107 kills. So I don't know if you get experience from this, but man, oh man. Once I realized that they were just spawning and spawning, I realized, okay, I think this is designed to keep you on your toes as well as designed for failure. It's a one-way ticket, as I mentioned earlier, and perhaps it was like this by design. Which it kind of sucks when you're just using it as a player. But if you understand the story, then you can appreciate it for what it is, right? And that kind of brings value back to it in that form. So as long as you play it as a cinematic, then you should be okay. If you play it to try to get them 3 stars, you're going to be very disappointed. So based on mechanics, this scenario probably isn't the best one, but story based, you get the backstory going, then you're definitely going to enjoy it.
Overall, I don't recommend this map to anybody unless you've seen the movie, in which case then I would sure as hell play it just for the nostalgia of it. If you want to rack up a kill count, then this is probably a good spot for you to do it. And if the game implements a form of experience for every kill, then that's even better. It might be a way of leveling up, perhaps. But I'm going to have to ask the question, was the intent of this mission supposed to be a failure? If so, then it pans out. I just wish maybe the conditions for success would have been more outlined to where it doesn't take away from the story, but yet you come out with stars or a potential for stars. If you like this map, or if you like the content I've been rolling out, feel free to follow me, comment, and like. I'll be dishing out a few more in the days